The movie starts in a luxury yacht where several rich guys are having beer and enjoying a good time. One of them is Wallace, a shrewd businessman who is always looking to trick others for his personal benefit. After everyone leaves, he stays behind and orders some more beers, but right when the waitress Vicky approaches him, Wallace unexpectedly begins to twist and turn, then his bones start cracking in a terrifying manner. Wallace screams for help, but Vicky is just as confused as he is. No one apart from them is present on the yacht, and it seems like an invisible force is torturing him. Unfortunately, all four of Wallace's hands and legs are broken in half, much to the girl's horror. After a while, two detectives, Audrey and Nathan, arrive on the scene to investigate. When they take a look at the unconscious Wallace, they quickly realize that they are dealing with something dangerous. The forensics doctor explains that all of Wallace's appendages were broken at the exact angle of 90 degrees. Audrey is completely baffled by the incident, and when she goes through Wallace's body, she finds a strange black substance in it. No one knows what it is or where it came from. Following this, the detectives interrogate the rich owner of the yacht, Captain Richards. He mentions that Wallace had a lot of enemies because of his cunning attitude, but there was no one on the deck except the waitress when the incident occurred. Richards further explains that his yacht is one of the most luxurious ones around, with cutting-edge technology, so a mechanical malfunction is completely out of the question. Once his interrogation is over, the detectives head to Vicky, who is still in a state of shock. Her dad Alec and fiancé Jimmy are also there. Alec reveals that he also works on the yacht, and when the incident took place, he was in the maintenance room. Meanwhile, Jimmy believes that it is the doing of something supernatural. Shortly after, the detectives learn that another man has been killed in a gruesome manner. When they arrive at the scene, they find his corpse shredded in perfectly aligned pieces, as if he was measured and cut with a scale. One of the cops on the scene reveals that the victim is Joe Santamaro, a dishonest and rude real estate agent. He was working in his office as usual, when something suddenly took over him, causing him to scream in pain. When help arrived, Joe was already dismembered and lifeless. This puzzles the detectives, and when Audrey inspects the office, she once again finds the black substance nearby. Detective Nathan concludes that the culprit behind both the murders is the same one because both the victims were assholes. He also assumes that the killer is using some sort of telekinesis to carry out his activities. Meanwhile, we learn that Alec was once again in the proximity when the murder took place, believing that he is the murderer. The detectives interrogate him angrily and demand an explanation. Alec nervously reveals that he had visited Joe Tozel's house, but the deal never went through. To test whether he is telling the truth, Audrey starts cursing at him, hoping that he will use his telekinesis powers on her and expose himself. However, he only gets angry and does nothing, hence proving that he is not the culprit. In the next scene, the lab results finally come out and the black substance is revealed to be charcoal. This is the same type of charcoal that is found in sketch pencils. With this clue, the detectives head to the local stationery to investigate. Nathan approaches the storekeeper and inquires if anyone bought charcoal pencils recently. The woman mentions that a lot of people buy those every day, making it impossible to find the culprit. Upset, the detectives exit the store and start listing the possible suspects. Audrey believes that Vicky's fiancé Jimmy might be Theon behind it, as he also works on the yacht and is often mistreated by the rich guy. Perhaps he is taking revenge on Olothan using his voodoo magic. Nathan finds this hard to believe, but nonetheless, he decides to help Audrey interrogate the boy. Later, the two approach the yacht. Willie, a sniper, overlooks them from a distance. The latter has been ordered to immediately shoot Jimmy if he starts using his telekinetic powers. Soon, the detectives begin the interrogation and request Jimmy to honestly tell whatever he knows about the murders. You've been buying pencils lately, you piece of shit. He agrees, but just as he is about to reveal something, he feels a sharp pain in his face. Then an eerie sound starts coming from inside his body, just like the one Wallace made before he was broken in half. Of the next second, Jimmy's eyes and mouth are erased from his face, shocking the detectives who are right next to him. This proves that even he is not the killer, or maybe that he bought erasers instead. Later, we see Jimmy receiving medical attention at the police station, despite his critical condition. He is still alive for the time being. However, Audrey knows that if they don't catch the killer, more people will die soon. So she makes it her ultimate mission to catch him and kick his ass. After a while, the detectives decide to interrogate the final person who is associated with the yacht, Vicky. Coincidentally, she is also an arts teacher who usually buys charcoal pencils from the stationery. Nathan and Audrey arrive outside her classroom and request a minute with her. However, Vicky appears to be scared and wants nothing to do with them. She also inadvertently reveals that her dad has been missing for 2 days. The detectives try to coerce her for more information, but she slams the door on them and leaves. With no options left, Nathan and Audrey Decidito break into her house to find clues. When they reach the garage, they are taken aback to find hundreds of sketches and paintings scattered on the floor on the wall. Many of them have been ripped off. It is evident that someone hurriedly took away all the sketches. Right then, a vase breaks inside the room, scaring the detectives. Audrey assumes that the wind was responsible for it, but Nathan says it is not possible as all the windows are closed. Maybe you farted, says Audrey. Then, as they scan through the house, Audrey shockingly discovers a sketch of Nathan, and when she playfully taps on it, Nathan is thrown away and bashed against the wall. This finally reveals how the murders and attacks are being carried out. Or maybe Nathan just farted again. Audrey deduces that Wallace's sketch was probably folded, because of which his bones got shattered. Joe's sketch was shredded, causing his whole body to tear into pieces, and as for Jimmy, his face was erased with an eraser. Meanwhile, Nathan picks up a sketch from the floor, which turns out to be of the same vase that was destroyed earlier. He then explains that not only people, but objects are also affected by this magic. It is then revealed that Nathan had accidentally stepped on the sketch earlier, which caused the vase to shatter into pieces. Nathan then draws a bigger penis onto his sketch. In the next scene, Wallace regains consciousness, and the detective immediately confronts him for the answers. Although weary, Wallace mentions that he doesn't have many enemies, but the one person who could put him in this situation is Captain Richards. This is because he owed him a massive $3 million. Shocked, Audrey inquires if the other victim, Joe, was also related, and Wallace explains that Hugh was a good friend of Richards. He was actually the personal realtor of the entire group of friends. Just then, Audrey gets a call from one of her juniors informing her that Vicky has been spotted near the beach. So the detectives waste no time and rush toward scene, only to find Vicky making another sketch. Of this time, she is carefully sketching a villa which is positioned right next to the beach. Nathan angrily asks her why she's doing all of this, but Vicky pretends as if she knows nothing. However, when the detectives continue forcing her, she breaks down and finally reveals that she's doing all this to save her father. It turns out Captain Richards is the mastermind behind this. He has kidnapped her father and is using her magic sketches to take revenge on all the people that have betrayed him. Nathan curiously asks how he got to know of her sketches, to which she responds that her fiancé proudly told him about them. Vicky further explains that currently she is making the sketch of the villa on the orders of Richards. He warned her to submit it by 5 p.m., or else he would kill her father. Hearing this, Audrey puts 2 and 2 together and finally realizes that Richards wanted the money from Wallace so he could buy the villa. When the latter couldn't provide the funds, he was attacked brutally. As for Joe, he was killed because he couldn't get Wallace's favorite villa. Meanwhile, Vicky says that she tried mocking a new sketch of Richards to kill him, but it turns out that only the first sketch works. Currently, Richards has all of her sketches locked up in his yacht. To make matters worse, he even has a sketch of Kings Point, a hill station from which the entire city can be seen. If Richard crumples it even a bit, the city will be hit by a massive earthquake. Elsewhere at the yacht, a wine smuggler named Duke meets Richards with some of his best collection. The latter is instantly impressed and he orders Duke to store the wine in his cellar. Just then, the detectives also arrive and confront Richards for all the crimes that he has committed. At first, he plays innocent, saying that he only sells fish, but when the detectives list out his entire operation, Richards gets angry. He then brings out the sketch of the entire city, threatening to tear it in half. Just when it appears as if all hope is lost, Richards suddenly gets hit by an invisible force, causing him to drop the sketch. To everyone's surprise, Duke comes out of the cellar with Richards' original sketch in hand. It turns out he is Audrey's good friend and she had hired him to carry out the operation. Vicky's dad is also rescued, and they finally reunite after days apart. Meanwhile, Richard's sketch falls into the sea and starts getting wet, causing water to come out of his face. Nathan hurries to fetch it out, but it is too late. The sketch sinks into the sea, and with this, Richards also dies a gruesome death. In the final scene, We see Vicky has rescued Herfian's face and he is recovering while the city's death mystery is finally solved, but no one knows how the sketches were able to perform such magic.